Have you ever been in a room full of men watching a game? Everyone's yelling at the screen, cheering, groaning, analyzing every play. And you're just standing there, not caring at all. Not pretending to care, not trying to fit in, just genuinely uninterested. And someone notices, wait, you don't watch football? And suddenly you're the odd one out, like something's wrong with you, like you failed some unspoken test of masculinity. It's strange, isn't it? We live in a culture where football isn't just a sport, it's a male bonding ritual, a social expectation, a measure of how man you are. But what about the men who genuinely don't care about it? Not because they're rebelling, not because they think they're better, but because they've realized something simple. Football just doesn't interest them. And here's what most people don't understand. That choice is backed by real psychology, by different interests, different values, and a refusal to fake passion for the sake of fitting in. This isn't about judging football fans. This is about exploring the psychology behind men who choose not to participate in what society calls essential masculinity. Because the truth is, not watching football reveals something profound about authenticity, social pressure, and what it means to be yourself. See, for generations, sports, especially football, have been tied to male identity. Father-son bonding over games, weekend gatherings centered around matches, office conversations revolving around scores and players. It's everywhere. And society has created this invisible rule that to be a real man, you need to watch the game, that to connect with other men, you need to speak their language, that to belong, you need to care. But something is shifting. More men than ever are admitting they don't care about football, not apologetically, but honestly, and the psychology behind that honesty is revealing. 1. The different interest profile. For many men who don't watch football, it's not rejection, it's just preference. Their brains are wired for different kinds of engagement. Maybe they love reading, creating art, solving problems, building things. Maybe they find intellectual stimulation in philosophy, science, or music. Psychologists call this interest differentiation. It's when your brain is genuinely more activated by certain activities than others. And for these men, watching 22 people chase a ball just doesn't trigger that activation. It's not boring because they're snobs, it's boring because their dopamine system responds to different stimuli. They'd rather spend 3 hours learning something new than watching a game they don't understand or care about. And that's not wrong. That's just how their brain works. 2. The authenticity over performance. Then there's another group. Men who refuse to fake interest just to fit in. They've tried. They've sat through games, nodded along, pretended to care, but it felt exhausting, like performing a role they never auditioned for. Psychologists studying authenticity have found that living inauthentically creates psychological stress. When you pretend to be interested in something you're not, your brain registers the dissonance, and over time, that dissonance erodes your sense of self. So these men made a choice to stop performing, to stop pretending they care about touchdowns and penalties, to be honest, even if it makes them the odd one out, because authenticity feels better than acceptance through pretense. 3. The rejection of tribal masculinity. Here's where it gets deeper. Some men don't watch football because they reject the version of masculinity it represents. The aggression, the tribalism, the us versus them mentality. The idea that your team winning somehow makes you a winner. They see through it. They recognize that modern masculinity has been built around competition, dominance, and tribal loyalty. And football is the perfect symbol of that. Psychologists studying gender norms have found that men who don't conform to traditional masculinity often feel alienated, not because they're less masculine, but because society's definition of masculinity is too narrow. These men aren't rejecting manhood, they're rejecting a script that never felt right. 4. The time value equation. Then there's the practical side. Football takes time, hours every weekend, multiple games a week if you're invested. And for some men, that time feels wasted. They've calculated the opportunity cost. 3 hours watching a game could be 3 hours learning a skill, spending time with family, working on a project, or simply resting. Psychologists studying time perception have found that people with high future orientation prioritize activities that build long-term value. And for these men, watching football doesn't build anything. It doesn't make them smarter, healthier, or more fulfilled. It's entertainment without substance, and they'd rather invest their time elsewhere. 5. The social pressure fatigue. But let's talk about something exhausting: the constant pressure to care. Every Monday, the office conversation is about the game. Every family gathering, the TV is on. Every group chat filled with scores and commentary. And if you don't participate, you're left out. Not maliciously, just naturally, because the social currency is football knowledge. And some men are tired of pretending they have any. Psychologists call this social conformity fatigue. It's when the effort to fit in becomes more draining than the isolation of being yourself. So these men made a choice. To being left out of football conversations is better than faking enthusiasm for something they don't care about. And that's a form of self-respect. 6. The intellectual mismatch. Here's something rarely people admit. Some men don't watch football because they find it intellectually unstimulating. Not in a snobbish way, but in a genuine way. Their brains crave complexity, nuance, strategy that goes beyond plays and formations. They need deeper engagement, philosophy, science, art, problem solving, and football to them feels shallow. Psychologists studying cognitive needs have found that people with high need for cognition seek out mentally challenging activities, and sports fandom doesn't meet that need. It's passive consumption. It's emotional investment in something you have no control over. And for minds that need agency and complexity, that's unsatisfying. 7. The emotional detachment. Then there's the emotional piece. Some men don't watch football because they can't connect emotionally to it. They don't understand why they should care if strangers win or lose. They don't feel the highs and lows fans describe. They don't experience that tribal belonging. And without the emotional hook, it's just people running around. Psychologists studying fandom have found that sports engagement is largely driven by emotional identification. You feel like you're part of something. But for men who don't naturally feel that connection, football is just noise, and they're not going to force emotions they don't feel. 8. The childhood disconnect. Here's where it often starts. Many men who don't watch football never connected with it as kids. Maybe their father wasn't into sports. Maybe they tried playing and hated it. Maybe they were always picked last and learned to associate sports with shame. Psychologists call this early socialization impact. If you don't develop an interest or positive association with something in childhood, it's hard to force it later. These men missed the formative bonding over football, and now as adults, they're not going to fake nostalgia they never had. 9. The quiet rebellion. But sometimes not watching football is a statement, not loud or aggressive, just quiet. It's saying, I don't have to participate in every male ritual to be a man. I don't have to prove my masculinity through sports knowledge. I don't owe anyone my interest. And in a culture that demands men perform certain roles, that's radical. Psychologists studying non-conformity have found that men who deviate from masculine norms often feel social penalties. They're called soft, nerdy, boring, but they've decided that being themselves is worth the judgment. 10. The valid masculine identity. So where does this leave us? Men who don't watch football aren't broken. They're not less masculine. They're not missing out. They've just realized something powerful. Masculinity isn't one thing. It's not defined by sports, aggression, or tribal loyalty. It's defined by who you are when you stop performing for others. And just like men who love football deserve respect, so do men who don't, because both are making choices about how they spend their time and energy. The men who don't watch football have often thought more deeply about what actually interests them than those who just follow the crowd. They've questioned assumptions. They've chosen authenticity over acceptance. They've built identities that don't depend on knowing player stats or team rankings. And that's not sad. That's freedom. Because at the end of the day, you don't need football to be a man. You don't need it to connect with others. You don't need it to have value. You just need to be honest about who you are. And that's something no game can give you. So here's my question for you. When was the last time you pretended to care about something just to fit in? Not because you wanted to. That's what these men stopped doing. They chose themselves over expectation. And if this made you think differently about the psychology behind your own choices, subscribe, because every week we explore the hidden psychology shaping your life. the channel where you actually understand yourself. See you in the next one.